For questions 1 through 7, look at the questions about language and the three possible answers listed, A, B, and C. Mark the correct letter, A, B, or C, on your answer sheet. Number 1. Which sentence does not contain a collective noun? A. The manager told his staff they could not leave early. The word staff is a collective noun. The teacher asked her students to hand in their exercise books. So students is a plural noun. And the spectators cheer their team. Team is another collective noun. So the answer I'm looking for is option B. The teacher asked their students to hand in their exercise books does not contain a collective noun. Number 2. Which sentence does not contain a determiner? A. There are several examples in the text. This is a determiner. B. Could you pass me that pen? That is another determiner. So C. I'm going on holiday next month does not contain a determiner because we don't say the next month. We just say next month. Number 3. Which sentence does not contain a conjunction of contrast? So what we can do here is check out for conjunctions of contrast. She liked skating when her friends went with her. When is not a conjunction of contrast because while is a conjunction of contrast. While she was quite hardworking, her sister preferred watching TV all day. The contrast is in there. She wanted to try snowboarding, though is another conjunction of contrast. So the answer I'm looking for is option A. Number 4. Which sentence does not contain a verb that is used transitively? Let's think about the transitive verbs when the action transcends from a subject to an object. Let's check out. Number 4, A. I really can't explain the reason why I felt that way. It means there is a transition. I felt that way. B. He wants to retire as soon as he can. There is no transition here because we don't say, I will retire you. So this is the one that is not used transitively because option C says, nobody knows what she's going to do. She's going to do next year. There is a transition. So number 4 is option B. Transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Number 5. Which sentence does not contain a possessive pronoun? Okay, we're going to check on possessive pronouns. This is the first one to say, I'll take yours. It's much better. Give me one quickly, will you? This does not contain the possessive pronoun because theirs is the other possessive pronouns in the sentence. I prefer this house to theirs. So the answer I'm looking for is option B. Number 6. Which sentence does not contain an adverb? He told us we only needed to bring our passports, and here's an adverb only. Then it says, fortunately, they found the wallet he'd lost. And fortunately, it's another adverb. So option C, nobody knew the book that he was describing, is the answer I am looking for. Number 7. Which sentence does not contain an adjective? There were so many people in town that you couldn't walk around. I found no adjectives there. Option B, the program was extremely well organized, and that would be the adjective, especially the word organized. And option C, there are no more tickets available, especially because of the ending able. It just tells me that it's an adjective. So the answer I'm looking for is option A. Then we're going to continue exploring this exam. And it says, for questions A through 13, match the modals in the example sentences with their uses listed A, B, and C. Mark the correct letter, A, B, or C, on your answer sheet. You will need to use some of the options more than once. And we have use of modals. So we have to express obligation, to give permission, or to give advice. Number 8. The house is so dirty or dirty. I really must clean it. I really must clean it. When we talk about this expression, I really must clean it, we are going to be describing an obligation. So, to express obligation is option A. Number 8, I would say. Number 9, you can borrow some money if you really want to. Now we're going to check on the expressions here, and we have to give permission. So I'm giving you permission. If you want to, you can borrow some money. You can take some money with you. And then number 10, we have, if you want to look smart, you should cut your hair. And we can take that as an advice. I mean, some advice. Some advice given is going to be, in this case, if you want to look smart, you should cut your hair. So we are giving advice. 11. We have to put the lights out by midnight every night. So that sounds like obligation. Obligation. And then number 12, to save some money, I think he ought to eat at home more often. And that means giving advice. If you want to save money, you have to or should eat at home more often. And number 13, it says, staff wishing to smoke may use the garden. That means I am definitely giving permission. I'm just telling you, you should go do it somewhere else. Okay. Then we're going to continue exploring here to see the next questions. For questions 14 through 19, look at the terms about lexis and the 3 possible examples listed A, B, and C. Choose the choose the example which matches the term. Mark the correct letter A, B, or C on your answer sheet. So, collocation, that's the question. What is a collocation from the 3 choices given? Very nice, fresh news, or quickly spoken? Collocation. Very nice. Those are 2 words very commonly used together. Fresh news, I would say, is not so common because news are not fresh, or news are not, let's say, um, I don't know if we can say moisture, or But fresh news does not collide. They are not used commonly. And quickly spoken has another order. Probably the order I'm looking for here is the adverb plus participle, which is going to be an adjective or a verb. But that wouldn't be counted as a collocation. Number 15, a word family. So we have childlike, children, childish. We call it a word family because we can say it has or they have the same roots. So this is the answer I am looking for. Number 16, chunk. A chunk is a group of words we can pronounce or use as a chunk, meaning as a group. For example, if I say, where will they sit? Maybe you can feel that there are pauses, stops. Where will they sit? But then if I pronounce this word, option B, the expression, what do you want? I'll say it again. What do you want? In the expression, what do you want? There are not stops. Everything is pronounced as a group, whole group, or chunk. Because in option C, which says, why do you listen to her? We can see that there are some stops. Why do you listen to her? It is pronounced in a way that it is not a chunk. A chunk, when I can pronounce or use several expressions as one. In this case, what do you want? Number 17, a word with a prefix and a suffix. Okay, we can check out here. This is the prefix, this, and ing is the suffix. So we can say disappearing. This one only has one suffix, and this one has another suffix. We need to find a word with both of them. Number 18, compound. Compound word. So bad idea is adjective noun, but bookshelf has the two words and one meaning. So that is the compound word. Because enjoyment is just one word with a suffix, but still one word. Now we have lexical set. We have pair and pair, pair and pair. Those are different words, pair and pair. We can call it minimal pairs or other kinds of words, but it's not a lexical set. They are not related. Think and think is the same. There is just a minor difference here. But if I say young and old, they are related. We can say they are antonyms and they have the lexical relation. Then for questions 20 through 27, look at the underlined words and the three possible phonemic transcriptions listed A, B, and C. Choose the correct phonemic transcription. Mark the correct letter A, B, or C on your answer sheet. Number 20. The word is adjective. 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 So I'm going to just go over the individual sounds and say this is a, this is g, adj, adjective, adjective, adjective. Option A is adjective. Adjective. It is adj, not ch, ch. And option B is yeah. This is yeah, adjective, which is not the answer. The one I'm looking for then is option C for number 20. Let's see the next word, synonym. 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 Something important is to understand that this would be the stressed syllable. This would be the weak syllable, synonym. So we know that the weak syllable takes the schwa. Synonym, synonym. So knowing this, our answer is option B. Option A would be synonym. Option C would be synonym. But it wouldn't be unstressed, so it would be synonym, which is when I say synonym without the stress. Number 22, vocabulary. 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 So we have the ca b vocabulary. Vocabulary. With the stress would be vocabulary. Vocabulary. So what happened in the other ones is like if I have option A, it's gonna say vocabulary. It would be bulary. This is the change. And for option B, vocabulary. Again, I need this phoneme to make the sound bia, vocabulary, which is why number 22 is option C. 23. Preposition, preposition, preposition. So let's check them out. The first one says preposition. The second says preposition. Now we know that if we have this suffix, the stress is going to be placed in this syllable. So this is why option B, preposition, preposition is the best choice. Pre, because option C is proposition, proposition, not preposition. So the answer I'm looking for in number 23 is option B. Now we're going to go to number 24. Question. Question. That's the word we're going to look for. Question. So we have in option A, que, question. In option B, we have ka or k and wa. So when we link them is qua, and this is what we're going to get. Qua for que, question, question. Because option C would be qua, ka, and then ya, question. It wouldn't be. We need qua, question. Number 24 is option B. Now we're going to explore number 25. The words language, language, language. So for option A, it says language, language, language. But there is here a different diphthong we need to, and I mean a different homophone in this case. The proper pronunciation that we're going to try to make up here is the one that takes lang. And here is when we make the difference. Langua. Langua, language. 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 This will be language. This is langua, language. So the answer I'm looking for in number 25 is option C, language. Number 26. Part of raising. Part of raising. Part of raising. Option A would be paraphrasing. Option B would be paraphrasing. Option C would be paraphrasing. But I would need to make this because this would be somehow taking the word and making it like that syllable is going to be um, stressed, and I don't want to stress that syllable. It's going to be pa, and after the stress syllable, ra, phrasing, paraphrasing, paraphrasing. The answer I'm looking for in number 26 is option B. And number 27, connected, 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 ted, ted, connected. I'm saying this is the best option because in option B is connected. It would be unstressed, connected. And option C is connect, connected, connected. It would be connected, connected. So in option 27, my answer is option A. For questions 28 to 33, look at the dialogue between two friends. Read the sentences from the dialogue and the three possible functions listed A, B, and C. Choose the correct answer and mark the correct answer A, B, or C on your answer sheet. I think it's better if we try to understand this first. So, Jim, when did you get back? Tom, late last night. The traffic was the worst I have ever seen on the motorway. Jim, it's always terrible. But did you have a good time? Tom, not so bad. It was incredibly expensive though. I haven't got any money left. Jim, I thought the same when I was there. I just couldn't afford to go out. But it's beautiful. I loved it really. Tom, yeah, it was just as beautiful as you said. Fantastic, in fact. And from this dialogue, we're going to get these functions. For example, if the person says the traffic was the worst I've ever seen it, we're going to be saying that this person was describing. This person was giving a description of the traffic, not a narration or an inability. For number 29, we can say, but did you have a good time? So the function is in here, changing topic. The person wants to change topic because in this conversation, we're going to go from a very difficult traffic time to and great time at the concert. And then on option 30, it says, it was incredibly expensive though. This word represents a complaint. I am complaining about the prices. I am not describing my feelings. If I say it was incredibly expensive though, and I am not blaming anybody. It was my decision to go to this concert. What I'm doing is complaining about the price of the ticket. Number 31. I thought the same when I was there. If somebody says, I thought the same when I was there, that means this person is agreeing because this person has had a similar experience. So A green is the option we were looking for. But it is beautiful. But it is beautiful means the person is, yes, contrasting. I mean, expensive with difficult traffic to get there, but beautiful. It is definitely a contrast. And option 33 says it was just as beautiful as you had said, I would say. For number 33, the person is comparing. It is just using the comparative form. It was just as beautiful as you said. And then it says for questions 34 through 40, look at the questions about writing and the three possible answers listed A, B, and C. Choose the correct answer. Mark the correct letter, A, B, or C, on your answer sheet. Number 34. Which statement does not is not about process writing? So it says A. I always try to put lots of creative ideas into my writing. B. I always try to do, or I always do a first draft when I read and then edit it again later. So editing and drafting are about the process of writing or writing process. And option C, when I check my writing, I always find I've made lots of small mistakes. And this is what we can call here drafting, redrafting, and editing. So it is part of the process writing. The one that is not part of the process writing is option A. I always try to put lots of creative ideas into my writing. It's not telling me that you are exactly in the process of writing something. It is telling me that you do something in general, but you're not really writing something in this moment. Number 35. Which statement is not true about cohesion? So let's see. Cohesion, the way we join the paragraphs and sentences. The paragraph was full of words with the same lexical set. So there is some kind of, let's say, cohesion or cohesive devices, let's say, unity about the same topic. That's why the paragraph was full of words from the lexical set. B, the paragraph used simple but clear conjunctions. And of course, if you use a conjunction, it's because you are joining sentences, you are joining ideas, and even joining paragraphs. But then if it says the paragraph only contained 3 short sentences, I would say this is not exactly an example of cohesion because you cannot link such few things. I mean, only 3 sentences. You need more things to be linked. So, since we don't have enough, they couldn't just be linked well enough to express cohesion, which is why number 35 is option C. Number 36. Which statement is not true or is not about a layout? Maybe you remember the layout is the way the text is organized. And it says, arranging your letter so that the addresses, etc., are in the right place makes it easier to understand. We can say that that makes sense. But then if I say I always put full stops at the end of the sentences, but I'm never very sure where to put the commas, this doesn't have to do with the layout. It has to do with the editing, correcting punctuation, but it is not exactly about where you place your text, what color you give to your fonts, how you put pictures and arrange them in your text. Then, for example, it says on option C, recently I've started dividing my writing into short, clearly marked paragraphs. That would be a way of laying out your text with bullet points and other kinds of uh, things to make it look nice and attractive. Then we have number 37. Which statement is not about product writing? A. I like to follow a model when I write. It really helps me. So we can say that this is an example of product writing. I am writing out of something that I see, which I want to replicate. Number 38, I mean option B. It's useful to see how previous writers have structured their texts and then copy them. So when you do that, you're following somebody else's writing. You want to see what they have done so you can replicate. And I think it's a very good example of product writing. Option C. My friends sometimes give me feedback on what I write. That really helps me improve it. Well, that wouldn't be product writing. That wouldn't be you being, let's say, uh, when you see somebody else's writing and you want to try to follow up that kind of writing is something you can call product writing. But if you give your writing for your friends to check up, they're not following anybody. They're just checking up, but they're not following your style or the way you write. So the one which is not about product writing is option C. Then we can check out number 38, which says, which statement is not about coherence? Coherence. We know that coherence is going to be the way the ideas and paragraphs and the information in the text flows naturally. And this is how we can check it up. Option A, each paragraph had a clear topic sentence, so you could easily see what it was about. Yes, this is the natural flow of organization of ideas. So it is about coherence. B, all complaint letters seem to follow the same pattern, which makes them easier to write and understand. That is also a coherent text because it is telling you that the letters start and develop in a specific way. Then we have option C, the answer we are looking for, which says, I always try to explore new ideas in my writing so I can learn about new things. That has nothing to do with how your texts are organized. Number 39. Which statement is not about authenticity? A. At school, we had a rough book for writing first draft and a good book for our final draft. Well, this is linked to the process of writing, where you write in one book all you want to write about, but then you check it out and correct and cross out words and erase and do other things. And then you have another book for your final drafts, but that is not related to authenticity. So that's the answer that I'm looking for. And I would say this because in option B, it says at school, we have always had to do things like write letters to our local newspaper, meaning something realistic, I mean real, or send emails to pen friends, real people, in which, I mean, the context in which we use the language is authentic. Then it says, At school, the teacher encouraged us to use language that was natural and in the right style. So in this case, we can say that when you use language that is natural, is language that is authentic. And when you use the language in the right style, means you're going to be using language in an authentic context. Number 40, which statement is not about language accuracy? A, it doesn't matter if you make punctuation mistakes in emails. Nobody minds. Well, that's accurate, which is in this case inaccurate, but still related to the topic. B, the contract contained mistakes about my job duties. It could be inaccurate related to your job duties, but not inaccurate related to language. It could be well written, so it doesn't have language inaccuracies. It has content inaccuracies. Option C says, I always try to find time to proofread my work. It means find mistakes and improve upon them. So the option we are looking for is option B. Then it says, for questions 41 through 45, match the learner's comments with the terms about language learning that they refer to listed A through F. Mark the correct letter, A through F, on your answer sheet. There is one extra option which you don't need to use. Language learning terms. You might remember them. Those are acquisition, fossilization, silent period, autonomy, interference, and cognitive skills. So let's see how we can understand them better. For example, the learner's comments say, my teacher always tells us about grammar rules. They're much too abstract for me to understand, and they don't help me. A person who says this, my teacher is telling me about these rules. They are hard for me to understand, and I don't see any help from them, is mentioning the cognitive skills. Why? Because the person's cognitive skills are not developed yet. For number 41, we'll say is option F. The cognitive skills of this student are not developed yet. Number 42. It says, when I try and speak English outside class, I keep using words from my own language. I don't know why. When you use language from your first language, I mean words, expressions, pronunciation, and other aspects, you're going to be on the interference process, meaning your first language naturally interferes with your second language. It is just a process that you will go through as you learn a second language. Number 43. It says, what I really like is when the teacher doesn't teach us, but gives us the addresses of websites. So with these addresses of websites, we can follow our own preferences. Maybe the student here is asking about some or asking for autonomy. Why? Well, the teacher gives them the websites and students have the freedom to check them and follow their own preferences. So they are autonomous. Number 44. I have been learning for about 20 years and I am totally fluent, but I know I still get some basic grammar wrong. And when this happens, we just want to remember the concept. The concept is fossilization. It means advanced learners still make minor mistakes, basic mistakes, because they didn't have enough time to consolidate, to work it out, to improve it. So these mistakes remain, and some of them even get fossilized. Then we have number 45, and it says, when I go to a foreign country, I like to just listen. It gives me time to build up my confidence and get used to the sounds of the language. For number 45, then we can say that the person is going through a silent period. The silent period is when students acquire language just by listening and or reading everything around them, but they are not really like in the process of speaking because they're not ready to take up those skills yet, the skills of speaking. Then we have for questions 46 through 50, look at the learning strategies and the three learner activities listed A, B, and C. Two of the activities are examples of the learning strategy, but one activity is not. Mark the letter A, B, or C, which is not an example of the learning strategy on your answer sheet. Number 46, using language awareness. I want my learners to be aware. So what do I do? Let's check it out. The learner worked out the meaning of the word from his knowledge of what the suffix less meant. So by doing this, I would say that they were using their language awareness. The learner repeated the past tense of the verbs after the teacher had modeled them. There is no learning here, not at that stage. You're just repeating what somebody else is saying, but you're not making your own conclusions, your own corrections or conceptions of the language. So this is not related to language awareness, which is the process in which students know what they're doing. At least they're able to self-correct and they know how they are using language. And this sometimes makes them see their own mistakes. And then it says, option C, the learner added ed to the new verb because he thought that was how you made the past tense. So what is happening here is that the student is trying to use his language awareness, meaning his knowledge of the past, simple past tense. It means he already knows and he's trying to use this knowledge when dealing with new words or verbs in this case. So the one that is not related is option B, because the learner is just repeating words, but sometimes not even being aware of what they're saying. Number 47, what is remembering? In this case, what is not remembering? So let's check option A. The learner copied the new words into her notebook when the teacher told her to. This is not remembering. This is just following instruction, but it doesn't guarantee remembering. What does, what I just said, is this. Every day, She named all the objects she could see as she walked along the street. So she's trying to remember what she has studied or what she has read in some books or what she's learning. She's trying to bring it up to her world. She's trying to bring up, recycle, and reuse the vocabulary words she has learned just by identifying them in the street. Maybe she's going to say, I don't know the word for that thing over there, but I know that this is, let's say, the sidewalk, the street lights, the zebra, and all these concepts. So she's remembering. Then it says, after each lesson, he stuck on his bedroom wall cards with the chunks of language he had learned in class. So the student is remembering, is looking for a way to remember. It is his own way. It is how he wants to remember them. Not because somebody tells you to write the words, but because you see how you can retain the knowledge from them. Number 48, experiencing. So, I mean experimenting, which is very similar to experiencing. What is not experiencing? Let's see. When they are on holiday on foreign countries, they just guess what the signs and menus must mean, and they are often right. This is an experimentation with the language or an experiment. B. When he couldn't find the right word, he used to paraphrase. He sounded very fluent. So, this is another way of experimenting with language. You're trying to get your own tune, your own version, and sometimes you don't find the word that you're looking for, but you try to paraphrase it so you still don't lose your fluency because you just keep going and you don't make the stops to remember these kind of words. But then it says, when she didn't understand a word, she always used the dictionary and it really helped her. It would help her learn the language, remember the language, acquire the language, but it wouldn't help her experiment with this word. Not yet. So the answer I'm looking for is option C. Number 49. Noticing. It means when you encounter language that you have previously studied, or when you just get to know things that are related to what you are learning, so you notice them. For example, every time he read an article, he underlined all the new words. When you do that as a language learner, you're noticing language. How come? You're paying attention to words. You're saying, is this a verb, an adjective, a noun, an adverb? So if you do that, you're noticing the expressions, the verbs, and you are building up your language skills. B, she always listened to hear differences in the way people pronounce words. In this case, she wants to be aware of the pronunciation. So she goes to an American person and says, pronounce this word, and she will get water. With somebody else, it will be water. And when with somebody else, it will be water. So she is noticing the differences in the pronunciation of words. What noticing is not is this option. He always loved just to hear the foreign language, so he used the radio and the TV a lot. You are exposed to the language when you do this, yes, but you're not noticing because everything is coming out so fast that you don't have time enough to say, hey, this is a verb. This is an adjective. Oh, this is the way he. No, you just try to be exposed to the language. It doesn't mean you are noticing language here, okay? For number 49, we're going for option C. Number 50, cooperation. And it says, she always phoned her classmate to discuss ideas for what to put in her essays. That is cooperation, saying to somebody, hey, help me, or what do you think about this? But then it says, the classmates all went to England together in the holidays. I don't see any cooperation there. It's just a group activity. I don't see any like group goal related to them. And number 51, number 50, option C says in the group work, they managed between them to write a complete letter in English, and they were very proud. We can say this is cooperation. You're working together, you're doing things that you're proud of, you're getting good results. So for number 50, the one I'm looking for is option B. For questions 51 through 55, match the teacher's statements about some of her learners with the types of learning needs listed A through F. Mark the correct letter, A through F, on your answer sheet. There is one extra option which you don't need to use. So there are some types of learning needs that we can check out as security, learning style, personal interests, specific language or skills, previous learning experience, and motivation. So, if the teacher's statements read like this, he doesn't seem to know why he's learning, so he just doesn't care how he gets on. Maybe this student is not motivated because the student doesn't even know why he's there. The student has no motivation at all. So, number 51 is option F. 52. He's really good at grammar and vocabulary, but weak at speaking and listening. He needs these for his new job. When this happens, the person is showing weakness in specific language or skills. I would say specific language skills. Like when the teacher says, hey, you really need to improve on your listening and speaking. So those are the specific language skills you need to be working on. Then for number 53, it says most of the course is given through lectures, but he learns much better by reading and doing. So this has to do with the way he prefers, and that is called a learning style. The learning style, when you choose the way you want to learn. Number 54. The course is all about learning grammar, but he's not used to that, so he's a bit lost. That has to do with the previous learning experience because in the past he didn't used to study that much. Grammar that much. So now that he has to do all these many exercises related to grammar, he's a bit lost. So it all comes down to his previous learning experience. And number 55, it says he seems to need lots of attention and confidence building. If he needs to do that, he needs to work on his security. He's not secure enough. He needs to work on that. Attention and confidence building, especially confidence. It happens to students when they don't want to speak, when they don't want to do anything in class because they're just too scared. Then we have for questions 56 through 61. Match the learner's comments about their lessons with the approaches listed A, B, and C. Mark the correct letter, A, B, or C, on your answer sheet. You will need to use some options more than one. Approaches. We have A, task-based learning. B, structural approach. C, lexical approach. And here we have the learner's comments. I'm going to try to find a way to see them in the same page, which I think is better this way. And then it says, for option B, 56. In every lesson, we learned something new, then drilled it and did exercises. We never used the language freely. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing the structural approach because you're learning something. You're not using language freely. You're drilling it, meaning you are repeating and repeating and repeating simple present with the third person. You're repeating all the time, but you're not using language freely. So the name of this method is the structural approach. Number 57. Yesterday, the teacher asked us to underline all the chunks of language we could find in the text. Then see if we could hear them in a recording of a conversation. It was difficult. So for number 57, since we are talking about chunks of language, and then I just want you to think about students having to, for instance, listen and underline all the words with suffixes, or read in this case. Read and find all the adverbs. Read and find all the verbs. Read and find all the transitive, intransitive verbs. So by doing this, the professor, in this case, the teacher in the class, is going to use a method which is a little different. I'm going to call this method over here the lexical approach. I want my students to notice words related to lexis, collocations, and all these aspects related to lexis, and then see if they can understand them in a conversation. Number 58. In groups, we have to design a program for a school trip to New York. Then, afterwards, we discussed what vocabulary we have needed to do this. When you do things without formal training or teaching, you are going to be using the task-based learning, meaning you are going to just use in your classes, you're going to be using things that make students achieve goals without even thinking about the language at that time. Number 59. Sometimes in class, we do an activity, then the teacher corrects our mistakes, then we do the activity again. I find this really useful. So by doing this, we're going to be working on the task-based learning. And let's think about this. Sometimes in class, we do an activity. So think about the activity. The activity is going to be, for example, to write down a postcard for a friend. So we do the activity. Then the teacher corrects our mistakes. So the teacher corrects my mistakes in my card, in my letter. And after I do that, I want to write it again. But this time, without the mistakes. The focus is on the activity. The corrections are necessary. So, the name of this approach is task based learning. You do something, you get corrected, you do it again. It is useful, especially because at the end, the student is going to say, now I know how to write letters. Number 60. I like the way each bit of grammar we learn builds on the last bit. It makes learning quite easy. So by doing this, you learn something. Today you learn simple present. Tomorrow you will learn simple past, and you think this is good. You will be using the structural approach, the approach that has to do with teaching grammar and building up on the previous grammar, let's say. Number 61. The teacher always asks us to work with what she calls authentic materials, like magazines, newspapers, and articles from the internet. We use them to find collocations and idioms. If you are doing that, you're going to be working on the lexical approach. You're going to try to use the real English, but then you're going to try to match that with what you have already learned. What's a collocation? What's an idiom? Oh, I know what an idiom is. Then I'm going to find some in this text. So this is the way of learning. This is how we answer this section. And then it says, let's see if I can just, I can do it this way. For questions 62 through 67, match the steps from different lessons with the presentation or introductory techniques listed A through G. Mark the correct letter A through G on your answer sheet. There is one extra option which you don't need to use. So we have a list of presentation or introductory techniques and some steps in the lesson. So what we're going to try to do here is to cover them up. Yes. So this is how we're going to understand them. It says, A, live in. Maybe I can do something to help you understand this better. Let's see if I can just do this. Yes, I think it's going to be better for understanding and reading on the whole page. Yes. Now we have A, live in, B, providing a context, C, warmer, D, guided discovery, E, concept checking, F, using an input text, and G, elicitation. So, number 62. Let's see how we can just get the different colors for understanding. The learners look at 7 example sentences and work out the form and meaning of the structure. So, if my learners do this, what would they be doing? The learners look at 7 example sentences. I am giving them example sentences, and then I want them to work out the form and the meaning. It would mean I am giving them a guided discovery how to tell. First, I'm going to give them an example of something they can be working out. I want them to work out this form. Is it in present, in past, in future? The meaning, this word means this or that, and the structure in the sentences. I want them to be able to be guided and discover what they were about to learn. Number 63. The learners tell the teacher their experiences of using English to speak with tourists before designing a poster on the same topic in the rest of the lesson. So let's think about what they're doing there. First of all, this activity is related to what they will be doing in the rest of the class. And when you do that, you're going to use a lead in. It means you are leading them to what they are going to be doing afterwards. So, this is the way to understand the concept. Number 64. The teacher. Okay. Number 64. The teacher shows the learners a series of photos of people and at the same time says some adjectives that describe their appearance. So by doing this, I want you to consider the context in which the teacher is doing this. I want to show you a picture and I want you to see it. And when you see it, I want you to think about it as you listen to me. I am providing you with a context. The context of showing you the person in the photo, using adjectives to describe their appearance tall, young, beautiful, chubby. And by doing it, I'm giving the student the context to understand what I want them to understand. 65. The teacher asks the students if the structure expresses permission, ability, or advice. So you just write something on the board and you tell them, what do you think this expresses? You know, it's a modal verb. And when you do that, you are doing something called concept checking. You want your learners to be able to let you know whether they understand the concept from the sentence you have written them. So you want to check how much they have understood from what you have previously taught. Then we have number 66. And it says, the teacher prompts the learners to use their target structure by asking them to tell her about their holiday plan. Let's think about the context of explaining holiday plans. I would like to use another color, which is going to be, I think it's going to be this one. Then let's see. So it says, the teacher prompts the students to use the target structure by asking them to tell her about their holiday plans. By doing this, I'm asking, I want students to provide me with information. And when I do that, I am going to be eliciting language, eliciting vocabulary, eliciting context. And this is the concept of elicitation. Then we have number 67, and it says the teacher asks all the learners to stand up and shake all the classmates' hands. Then ask them for their homework. Let's think about that. If you do that in your classes, you're going to be using what is called a warmer. A warmer is a way you have to do something at the beginning of a class, but it is not related to the topic of the class. The lead in is related to the topic of the class, but the warmer is not related. You just want them to stand up, shake your hands, and then sit down and listen to me. It is called a warmer. It is not a lead in. And I just hope this one was clearer for now as we progress. Okay. Then it says, I guess here we can see better by just zooming a little bit. For questions 68 through 74, look at the extracts from the practice activities and the three possible terms listed A, B, and C. Choose the term which matches the activity. Mark the correct letter, A, B, or C, on your answer sheet. For example, for number 68, it says complete the sentences with one of the words. They went to school, A, with, B, on, C, by. What kind of activity is this? This is a multiple choice activity. They're going to have the answer, they're going to choose the answer from the multiple choices given. Then I'm going to try to check number 69. What words about food do these letters make? So as you can see there, the kind of activity I want them to do is called a jumbled letters. I give them jumbled letters and I want them to organize them. Number 70, complete the gaps in the text. I want you to look at this text, and from this kind of information, we can say this is a close activity. It is not a gap fill because for gap fills, we just have simple, shorter sentences. Here we have complete text. And when you work out the meaning of a complete text, you are doing closes or close activities. Number 71. Find the answers to the first three questions in your article, and then your partner has a different article. So ask your partner for the answers to the other questions. So when doing this, we're going to be dealing with the jigsaw reading. The jigsaw reading is when I have some answers, you have other answers. So we have to work together in order to get all the answers at once. Then we have number 72, and it says, look at the words and put them in the right boxes. So if I look at the words and I have to put them in the right boxes, I am going to be categorizing the words, telling you, okay, this goes into the verbs part, this goes into the adjectives part, this goes into the adverbs. So I am categorizing. Then number 73, it says, look at the list of items that would be useful on a camping holiday. Choose the six most useful ones and put a number 1 through 6 against each item to show which are the most useful. Then discuss your answer. So if you're doing this kind of activity, you're going to be in a rank ordering activity. You want to know which of them are more important than the other ones. Then we have number 74. It says, write down all the reasons you can think of that support this suggestion. Then put them in a logical order and use this plan to write your essay. After you have written it, make sure you edit and proofread it. So by doing this kind of activities, I am going to be working on option B, process writing. It has to do with all the steps involved in writing. And then finally, for questions 75 through 80, look at the terms about assessment and the three activities listed, A, B, and C. Two of the activities are examples of the term. One activity is not. So let's see about it. It says, mark the letter A, B, or C, which is not an example of the term, on your answer sheet. 75. Formative assessment. So we can say that the teacher asks learners to complete sentences with the correct form of the word in brackets. And then, if we do that, it is not going to be an example of formative assessment. It is just an example of an assessment, but it doesn't have to do with the formative assessment concept. The kind of assessment I give them based on, for example, everything they have learned in the past or everything I need them to learn, whether I need to put them in a specific group, whether I need to give them an example of an exam that covers everything related to English rather than a specific topic, for instance. And then it says, for instance, the teacher uses her observations of group work to divide the class into three new groups according to their ability. So this is the way it works, because in formative assessment, we use previous judgments and, let's say, personal assessment to put students in groups to decide what level they are at. And that is a formative assessment example. And then option C says the teacher gives different tasks to different learners based on their responses to a test. It means after they tell me, they show me what they learn, what they know, I can tell them what to do. But I do this when I provide them with a formative assessment tool so I can decide on what to do after. And that would be the definition of the formative assessment. So the answer I'm looking for is option A. Summative assessment. Summative assessment. Let's check out the options. It says, at the end of the course, the teacher gives each learner advice on how to continue in their studies. This is actually not summative assessment because it is not the kind of assessment that I give them when they finish the course I have taught. But this is about what I can tell them about what they are going to do in the future. So it has nothing to do with what I have done in my course throughout the semester or the level. No, 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 no. What I'm doing here is telling them what they can be doing in the future, which is different. Option B, it says, at the end of the course, the learners take a test on the content of the term's work. It means the content of what they have done during the semester or term or level or course. So you finish your course, you want to take a test based on what you have learned in that course. And then option C, at the end of the term, the teacher gives the learners a grade for presentations on their project work. It means on what they were working on in that level, in that course, in that term. So for number 76, the answer that I'm looking for is option A. Then we have number 77. I'm going to try to figure out which is not a portfolio. And it says, option A, the learners carry out a project over several weeks then give their survey results, videos, and complementary, and as a commentary to the teacher to grade. I think this is a very good example of what a portfolio is, because as you project, as you progress in your courses, as you learn for several weeks or several months, they try to give survey results, videos, and many things that you can collect as samples of what they have done to reflect on their learning. So this is a very good definition of what a portfolio is. Then we have option B. The learners do a piece of homework each week and give it to the teacher to grade. No, this is not portfolio. This is not students saving and keeping a record of what they're doing throughout the semester, especially about their achievements and what they have done. This is just an example of homework they have to do every week, but it doesn't even have to go to the portfolio. It stays in their homeworks or notebooks, and it is not considered a portfolio. And option C, the learners put into a folder examples of their work throughout the term for the teacher to grade. This is an example of a portfolio. So the answer I'm looking for is option C. Then we have number 78. What is not a diagnostic test? A. The teacher interviews each new learner and takes notes on the strengths and weaknesses in their grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. Well, that is exactly what a diagnostic test is. In option B, the teacher uses the results from a test to decide which course book is best for her new class. Yes, when you take the results from a test, then you can decide. You are giving your students a diagnostic test. But then, if the teacher asks the class to discuss in groups what their problems are with learning English, it is not a diagnostic test, because what they're going to answer here is not going to tell me exactly what level to place them, what skills they are good at. Students can say one thing, students can tell you many things, but it is when you see what they can do with real tests, then you say, oh, this student told me that he was good at grammar, but then when I gave him a grammar test, he didn't do well. So only a diagnostic test will let you know. Number 79, continuous assessment. What is not continuous assessment? So option A, at the end of every third week, the learners fill in a questionnaire for the teacher on how good they think their English is. This is definitely continuous assessment. Then it says, the teacher checks each week that the learners always proofread the writing before handing it. Well, this is not continuous assessment. I mean, it is not in the way of giving you something to continuously evaluate you. No, this is just an activity that I do every week. Students do something, I make them do something, but it doesn't actually tell me. It is just more a routinary activity. Because for option C, it says the learners bring in a favorite toy each week and tell the others about it. Look, the teacher listens and completes the checklists. I am assessing you. I am evaluating you, evaluating your language skills, your pronunciation, your reading, your listening, everything you're doing there. In this case, as you speak, I'm going to notice how you use the tenses, the vocabulary, the pronunciation, grammar involved, and many other aspects. So I am continuously assessing you as a student. So the answer I'm looking for is option B. Number 80, proficiency test. So, the hotel always interviews all new job applicants to see how good their hotel English is. So, this is a proficiency test because I want to know how proficient these people are in the hotel English context. So, we're going to say that this is it. Then, for option B, it says the university asked all the students applying to enter to give a presentation to see how good their academic English was. It is a proficiency test because it is the overall context of the language. And then option C says the teacher interviewed all their students on a topic they have covered during the term. It is not proficiency because it has to do with something they have done during the course, this course or this term or this semester. And it means students are not actually being evaluated on the global context of English, but just on a particular aspect of it.